Let's go to our guest, Kassim Afegbua, chieftain of the All Progressive Congress in our studio in Abuja. Well, in all of this, the opposition parties have been maintaining that when the PDP, as well as the other parties, PDP especially, went to Chicago State University to seek some of these, documents which they needed for the Supreme Court, that your candidates could have just, made it easy for them to access some of these if he had nothing to hide. But in all of this, was the APC unsettled? Where was your party, ruffled in all of these processes? Or did you feel comfortable because you felt the Supreme Court had never, at no time in the history of Nigeria, removed any sitting president?
Well, thank you very much for the question. I think let me quickly react to the issue of discretionary powers as it affects judgment dispensation of the Supreme Court or any other court for that matter. You see, you don't apply discretionary powers when it has to do with justice. You look at the evidence before you. Courts are not Father Christmas that will create something out of nothing. You see, when you advance your case, when you are trying to present a case to a court, you must do your due diligence on point of law, not sentiments and emotions. I think a lot of what transpired in the last 2 months, so to speak, both at the lower court and at the apex court, are just essentially media trial. Because if you follow the procedure, if you read through what the justices of the Court of Appeal and the Presidential Tribunal, what they wrote as judgment, if you read through, I think even lawyers of the other side, Peter Obi's lawyers and Atiku Abubakar lawyers, will concede that they did a thorough job. Now you are coming to Supreme Court. You said they should use the discretion to accept evidence. Supreme Court is a court of jurisprudence. It's not a court of evidence. If you say they should take it back to the lower court for trial, they will have surpassed the days which Section 22 captured very eloquently. So for me, if you look at the definition of when you try to say discretion, you are going to be introducing corruption into the process, because the definition of corruption globally is monopoly plus discretion minus accountability. So the discretionary power gives opportunity for manipulation, and that is what justices and the process of justice and the procedure of justice does not entertain. What you can do at best is for you to advance your reasons beyond reasonable doubt, so that every party involved will be so convinced that what you are talking about makes sense on point of law. Having said that, there was nothing to worry about in terms of APC or in terms of the case, because we knew that at the lower court, the emphasis was that President Tinubu did win. The emphasis was that the elections were rigged. Okay, come to court and prove this case. You couldn't prove your case. Particularly the Labour Party that didn't have polling agents in the 176,464 polling units. They didn't have up to 150,000. They had about 141,000 thereabout. Out of that figure, they couldn't even collate results at the polling units for them to present to court. They were waiting for IREF, and what the IREF did not do. So, in the absence of IREF, are you saying there were no results? That's what the court was asking. There were results. The APC, for example, knew about the outcome of the election the preceding day of the election, on the 24th, Sunday, because our polling agents had already sent in results from the polling units to our situation room. And that's what a serious party should do when it comes to election. As they are receiving, you snap, you send to your situation room. Then you collect. We did all of that, and we knew exactly that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu won the election fair and square. It may be agonizing. It may be a subject of lamentation for those who didn't, particularly in this climate where you have sore losers, people who don't want to accept that the process was free and fair. But for God's sake, in this same election, we saw 7 sitting governors losing elections to House and to Senate, and some persons who can call inconsequential winning elections into the House of Reps and other elections for that matter. So we may not have attained that excellence in terms of our election process, but for God's sake, to use one brush to tar everything negative is to miss the point altogether. So what I will advise is that in subsequent election, politicians must try to own up to the spirit of sportsmanship. You know, when you are going into an election and you know that only one person is going to win, allow that process and be part and parcel of that process, so that at the end of the day, you whether for good or for bad, accept outcome and let's move on. In other countries where elections are conducted, there are complaints everywhere. Trump almost brought down the roof. In America, we saw the Florida case at some point. We saw the Ohio case at another point. So the point is, because of the interest of the country, because of where we are headed as a country, if it is not your turn this time, it could be your turn again. But some of these arguments, talk, and all of that, for me, they are just meant to enrich the democratic process. If you don't allow people to talk, then it will be a monologue. So we need dialogue, we need constructive engagement, collective bargaining in the process of our democracy, in the process of our election process, so that at the end of the day, we will be richer for it. But what I want to advise is that politicians must learn to be sportsmanly, because you play a football match. Even Maradona scored a goal called Hand of God. They won the World Cup. But that didn't say that they should bring down football in the world and nobody, every other person should go to hell. It will be painful to lose an election, no doubt about that. But you have to come back home, do a reassessment, stock taking, and see how you can contribute to the process of enriching the process in subsequent elections, and also deepening democracy in Nigeria. Because like Showumi said, the people have fought to put the military back in the barracks for this democracy to come on stream. Out of this democracy, PDP has spent 16 years out of it. APC has spent 8 years there in the 9th year now. We've commenced the process of 9th year. So we have a long way to go. And if it is not you shouldn't say if it is not you, then heaven must fall.
Absolutely.